Desi stuff? Welcome back to Sideline Stories. I'm Emma.
I'm Blythe, and I'm here with Mike, and we're so excited to have him join us today. Mike, give us a little bit of background, where you're from, and what your current role is covering Tennessee athletics.
Yeah, so I've been covering the Vols for the last 7 years about football, basketball, baseball, primarily the baseball, basketball side. But I mean, you're in the South, right? You're in the SEC. You can't not cover football when you're in media here. So have a healthy dose of that as well. I grew up in Michigan mostly, went to Michigan State. And that's kind of where I cut my teeth in this. I covered Michigan State for 3 years, South Carolina for a year. So got to see that side of it, and then jumped over here to Knoxville, and it's been absolutely fantastic for the past 7 years.
That's awesome. So, what made you get into this field?
It's a great one. So I was actually a chemistry major in college my freshman year, and I hated it. I was just like, I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do with this. I always joke I would have been a high school baseball coach and a chemistry teacher because I
Yep.
don't know what else I could have done with that. But after my freshman year or late in it, I was just like, this isn't for me. So I said, well, I'm pretty good at writing and I've always loved sports. So I said, there's one kind of crossover there. Let's see if I can do it. And looking back now, it's really obvious. I mean, my childhood bedroom was full of Sports Illustrated, ESPN, the magazine, Sporting News, Baseball Digest, like any magazine that existed, I had. And I took those classes in middle school and high school, but it didn't really click until I was into college that this would be a great field for me.
So you've covered South Carolina, Michigan State, and now at Tennessee. What are some of the biggest differences you noticed in sports cultures at these schools?
Man, so I actually talked to that with someone last week. I was talking to a buddy back in Michigan, and you hear about it like it just means more stuff. Like you hear that, and you think maybe it's true, maybe it's not, and then you get down here. I mean, and there are some big time programs in the Big Ten and other conferences. Don't get me wrong, but the level of care and passion does feel a little bit different. Like almost all of the SEC is on par with kind of that upper echelon of the Big Ten, like a Michigan, Ohio State, Wisconsin, Penn State, those passionate football fan bases. You get that basically everywhere in the SEC. And that's what drew me to it. That was the excitement of covering the SEC. Is it's such a big deal. People care so much. Like I remember the first time I stood on the field at Neyland, and you just kind of stand there and you just look up, and it just feels like it keeps going forever. It's a really cool experience to be part of covering this conference.
Yes, Neyland is always, I feel like, a bucket list stadium for
Yeah.
everyone, especially for me too. I'm gonna have to find at some point to come and see a game there. But what is one of your favorite Tennessee traditions?
Oh, that's a good one. I was not a fan of Friends in Low Places as their third quarter songs. I thought they made a good choice changing that to The Way I Talk by Morgan Wallen. A newer tradition that's kind of fun to tie into Clemson, Blythe, is Billy English walk-up song.
Yeah.
The baseball team was the Stroke, and so everyone gets the clapping going and all that. That's been really cool. Like that's now at football games, and that's at basketball. Like that's everywhere now. That's not really a tradition, I guess, at this point. But that's been really cool to see. So yeah, I guess there's one I didn't like, one I do like. But there's so many traditions. I mean, coming here the first time I saw the Vol Navy on the Tennessee River before a game, that was really cool. Just the fact that fans can quite literally boat up to a game and walk across the street and be there is pretty dang cool. So there's a lot of cool things going on at Tennessee, that's for sure.
That's amazing. And with Tennessee basketball, what moment or game really stands out the most from your coverage that you've done there?
Every single game that Dalton Connect played last year. That's kind of got to be it. That was an absolute treat. I covered Denzel Valentine at Michigan State, and he was a National Player of the Year, and just it was such a gift to watch. And that's kind of that same thing that Dalton did, very differently than what Denzel Valentine was. But I mean, Dalton would go and score 39 points in a game, and it was just unbelievable to watch. So kind of having that front row seat to watch someone average 21 points a game, 25 in conference play. You don't see that. That just doesn't happen, especially for a guy that came from JUCO in a small school coming into Tennessee and doing that. So that stood out. I also got to go with the team to Italy last year on their international trip, and that is absolutely probably the coolest experience I've had in this job. I mean, I think it was 9 days in Italy. They played 3 games, but from a coverage standpoint, like that's just not something you get to do very often. like be around a team in a less formal setting and see them in a more relaxed way. So that whole year, pretty much from the time I got on the airplane in Atlanta until Tennessee lost in Detroit, that was really, really special.
You truly are living your dream. So, what would you tell a young journalist that wants to follow in your same path? I mean, what advice would you give them?
Take every opportunity you can get and do it hard. Um, I mean, there's no job too small in this. I mean, my job again is covering the University of Tennessee. There are times I get called and asked to help with high school stuff, and I love doing that. Like, there can never be a job that's too small for you, no matter what role you're in this. Because anytime someone's giving you a chance, it's a chance to get better at it. It's a chance to, if you're on the writing side like I am, it's a chance to become a better writer. Because like anything else, this is a thing of reps. Like you're a better writer with more reps. And I also think, and this is cliche to some extent, but diversify yourself. I mean, multimedia is a huge deal. Like what we're doing right here, this is such a big part of being in media, period.
Yeah.
Like being able to talk on camera, being able to be engaging on social media, being able to have a good interview on a radio show, write a good story, ask good questions in an interview. Like all of those things are so important to this job. So making sure you're good at kind of everything is important, but then you also find out what you're passionate about through that too. And for me, that was writing, like the belief that everyone has a really special story and wanting to write those stories and share them. So yeah, you just kind of got to do it all to find out what you're good at, but definitely the no job too small. I think we all want to do something like this, like cover the SEC or national college basketball or national college football. Some of the best things people get to do is at a high school, a story at a high school football game that no one else is at. So from top to bottom, I think you make yourself really valuable when you've learned all of those things.
I love that. And expanding on this, so you've been in journalism since 2013. What has changed in this industry, particularly with digital platforms and social media?
This job changes every other day. It truly feels that way. Like my bosses and editors, the News Sentinel is owned by Gannett, so some of my bosses are Gannett national people. It feels like the plans for college football coverage or college basketball coverage before each season. There's some new things we're doing. There's some different things we're doing. Like when I started out in this, the phrase SEO was never something anyone talked about. Now SEO and where you rank on Google, like those are things you have to pay attention to. So that kind of goes back to that of kind of being good at everything. There's something to be said for knowing what words to get in a headline. There's something to be said for knowing how to write a SEO URL to make sure that people can find your stories. Social media has been a prevalent part of this job since I got into it. It feels like that's even more the case now, just with probably more video focus, more multimedia than just going on there. So, but it truly feels like it changes every day in terms of what works, what doesn't work, what fans are looking for. I think probably the biggest thing that we talk about as a company is audience. Like, what does the audience want? Because you, as the journalist, might think, oh, well, this is the most interesting thing. But you've also got to pay attention to your audience. And so for me, it's what are Tennessee basketball fans talking about, or what are Tennessee baseball fans talking about? Like, so Billy Amick, again, why is his walk-up song The Stroke? Like, people want to know that sort of stuff. Like, it's not some fantastic Pulitzer-winning journalism piece, but people care about it. Like, people want to know why Billy Amick has The Stroke as his walk-up song. So, yeah, you kind of got to pay attention to the fans and what they're interested in too.
Oh yeah, the fans definitely care that deeper level of that person,
Mhm.
and we talk about that all the time. That's what makes sports so much fun. That's what makes people connected in sports is that the deep rooted person and the heart behind the person.
Mhm.
So for someone that is an outsider looking in, walk us through the night before a game and what are your steps to preparing for a game, just from the moment you wake up till after the game, what does that routine kind of look like when you are covering something?
Yeah, so I kinda the bigger the game, the more I need quiet, the day of a game and before a game. I'm a little particular about that. My wife would say I'm extremely particular about that. Um, like a slow morning, I wanna start in the Bible, preferably, is, like, where I wanna start that day. I wanna have a workout somewhere in there, like, if it's a night game especially, like, spend my day, get a run in there, get a workout in there. And once I get to the stadium, um, this applies to NCAA tournament as well, College World Series type stuff as well. I kind of try to seclude myself at the back of the press area, put in headphones, have a book out of some sort, and like get that quiet. Like that's the preparation that matters as much to me as knowing about the game, knowing who the players are, knowing who the teams are, knowing what's at stake. Like that stuff you kind of prepare throughout the week, at least for me. And then on the day of the game, I want to be as like relaxed as possible going into it, because once the game starts, it can go in a million different directions. I mean, injuries happen, crazy plays happen, weather delays happen in baseball. Like you just don't know what's going to happen. So like controlling what you can control up till the game starts is something that I really, really value.
So does your brain like move a million miles a minute during the game, being like, this is the story? Oh, wait, no, now this is the story.
It feels like it sometimes, but going back to this job being about reps, there's so many games at this point that I've been fortunate to cover, especially when you talk basketball and baseball, just because the volume of games each season, you kind of know the rhythm and the flow, and so for the most part, you've got an idea of it. Like I'm pretty like regimented with a basketball game of when I'm going to start writing. Like I pay attention to the media timeouts, like the under 16 timeout. I kind of jot some stuff. Under 12, get it more organized. And under 8 is when I really, really start writing those things. So you learn it throughout that. Again, it's repetitions and figuring that out. But yeah, there are some games for sure that just, no matter what you do, it feels like you're swimming and the bullets are flying. Like Tennessee's College World Series win against Florida State, where they rallied back in that opener and won it in the ninth. I mean, that's just a crazy scene. The craziest game I've ever covered was that Michigan State dropped punt on the final play of the game, where you're sitting in the press box, you've got your story written, you're ready to press send, and then suddenly the punter drops the ball. Michigan State guy has it. He broke his leg. Like there's so many things happening at once. So yeah, it's really unpredictable what's going to happen once that thing gets rolling.
Does that feeling of, because for me, this is what it used to feel like, whether you're showing up to a baseball field or arena or football field, that first kind of walk around the stadium when you first get there, it never truly gets old. Do you still feel that same excitement as you did probably the first time you ever covered a game?
I do sometimes, and that's something I try to be cognizant of, because after a decade of doing this, you do become a little maybe immune or numb to some of the great things that you get to be a part of. You don't miss those things when you're in Omaha or you're at the Final Four or you're at the big stages, but there is something to be said for just walking into a big stadium for a game, and getting to see that scene, because like we're saying, greatness might happen in front of you that day. Like you don't know what story you're going to get to write on any particular day. What bench player might come in and do something terrific. You just don't know what you're going to get out of it. So yeah, I think you always have to have an appreciation for what you get to see, what you get to witness. And maybe the biggest appreciation is you get to tell people about it later. Like you get to be on the front line of telling someone about the moment, the pitch, the dunk, the 3-pointer, the touchdown, like whatever it is. I mean, you look at South Carolina's game last weekend with Rocket Sanders' touchdown, like getting to tell that moment. Like there's just so many cool things that this job brings that you never really can expect.
Well, speaking about football,
Mhm.
how do you feel about Tennessee's season as a whole, and then also Tennessee moving forward after that loss to Georgia?
They better not lose again if they want to start the playoff. That's pretty clear. They're in a sticky spot. They could be in with what they are. They might need help to get in. I think the reality is the Georgia game is not the issue for Tennessee. Tennessee's issue is they lost at Arkansas.
Yeah.
If they didn't lose to Arkansas, Georgia didn't matter. You could have lost that game and you're still in. So that's kind of the anchor for this team at this point. It's been an interesting year overall for the Vols. They're so good defensively. I mean, Georgia was the first team to score more than 19 points on them this year, but they can't score, which is so crazy to say about a Josh Heupel team when they're so used to scoring so many points. But they're averaging like 23-4 a game in SEC play. And even if you're not giving up more than 20, that's not a great margin for error. And they've obviously found that out at Georgia. So it's been an interesting team. I mean, obviously you're 8-2 and you're looking at probably finishing 10-2 if you take care of business. So you're in the conversation for the playoff, but it still hasn't really been a beautiful season. There's so much that could have gone better, I think. But you're still in that conversation. At the end of the day, that is really all that matters for a football season.
And what are you looking forward to with Tennessee basketball now?
Shoot. There's a lot there. It's a really different team. Dalton Connect's gone. There also were two fifth-year seniors last year. So it's just such a different roster. Like three of the five starters are transfers. Zakai Ziegler is an All-American caliber point guard, and watching him navigate a new roster that isn't full of pieces he's so familiar with has been really neat to watch. But they've got some really talented players. I'm curious how it's all going to mesh together before this thing is said and done, because there's some upside there that I think they're starting to find with Chaz Lanier, Igor Milicic, who are two of the transfers that if those guys become who they look like they can be, it could be a really long season, I think, for the Vols.
Yeah, goal March Madness, always.
Yes, and then we will look forward to baseball season, my
Mhm.
personal favorite. I am very excited about that. And obviously, you've been to the College World Series, and we'll be gearing up for that. And hopefully, they will have another good season as well.
Gosh, yeah, I'm a baseball junkie at heart. I mean that is my first love is baseball. And yeah, did Vandy win it the year that you went?
They did.
Like, so Tennessee won it this year, and just getting the chance to see a team win it, like that's the first national championship team I've covered. And seeing a team win it, the storytelling you get to do and the experience of that is unlike any other. I have my laptop propped up on two books right now, both of which are College World Series books that we produced at the newspaper after the season. Like it just makes so many neat opportunities. Like we had lines of people around the building trying to buy covers a couple days later, and that experience, Omaha, is probably my favorite setting for sports, period,
Yeah.
because of the baseball element and just how beautiful that place is. And how, I don't know, you probably experienced this too, but there's baseball fans there that do not care about any of the teams. It's
No.
just people who love baseball and like go to Omaha every year. It's unlike anything else I've seen.
It was incredible, and it was cool because I was at Clemson during both national
Mm.
championships, and then in between the two, I interned with Vanderbilt baseball with their marketing department. They went on to win the College World Series, and their fans were begging me to stay for football season. They're like, please, you're good luck, please stay. Which is funny now and makes me so proud of the football program now and what they've been able to do, and they have been just so much fun to cover and watch this year too. But that Omaha experience is unlike anything I've ever been a part of either. And it's honestly something I want to make a tradition every year to go to as well, whether Clemson's playing it or Vanderbilt. Those are, my two baseball teams at this point that I will love forever and be forever embedded to. But I'm super excited for baseball season 2 and to see the rest of this football season shake out.
Yeah, I mean, on the baseball note, SEC baseball is maybe my favorite thing. Like you talk about coming down to the South to cover something, covering SEC baseball is a wild time because
Yeah.
you're seeing future big leaguers every single weekend. I mean, on every roster, no matter how good the team is, there's big leaguers on those teams. I mean, the first year I was in Omaha for Tennessee was 21, and you're seeing Jack Leiter and Kumar Rocker pitch for Vanderbilt. I
Yeah.
mean, it's just loaded up with talent every single year. So it's hard to beat that if you really love baseball.
Oh yeah, Hoover. We were talking about. I was like,
Yeah.
we need to have a team retreat and all go to Hoover and cover the SEC championship for baseball because that week is so much fun too. You will see the best talent there is. Just super cool experience there too. And I feel like Hoover's a lot like Omaha with just the fans that are in the area. They might not be, a fan to one of these teams, but they love baseball in Hoover. And so that's a really cool place to go to if you've never been as well.
I agree. Yeah, I think this last year was, I think, my third time going down, and yeah, I mean the long runs there are crazy because there's also a lot of weather delays typically in Hoover. So
Yeah.
you spend a lot of time in the press box at the Hoover Met. But
Oh yeah.
yeah, that's a great comment. I mean, that SEC tournament is absolutely loaded with teams and talent and big leaguers. And yeah, it's really, really, really fun to go there and just see that level of talent in such a cool sport in this conference.
But that's great. Well, Mike, thank you so much for joining us. Thank you for everything you do for college athletics. Your passion and heart is truly unnoticed. So thank you so much. And we will be with you next time.
Sounds good. Yeah, thank you so much for having me on.